Join me with the pledge to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda. Ray, second, Lori. All in favor? James Zarnecki, are you on?
I am. I'm having trouble with my video though. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get it. Oh, it says the host disabled it.
So what we will do is do a who's in person right now, and when Kate gets on board, then we can, is that acceptable? So she's technically not here yet. Correct. We should wait 1 second so we don't have to muddy the water describing how. Maybe it's not that easy.
You can take it on.
Sorry, I keep trying. It's saying the host disabled the video, so I'm just waiting. I'm sorry.
So, all present in favor of the agenda? We've got 5. No, 0. So, next item on our agenda is privilege of the floor. I had no one this evening that requested a spot for privilege of the floor. Accelerate your schedule.
Oh, I got it. So I can vote. Sorry, Kevin.
Okay. So Kate, your vote is?
Yes, aye.
Okay. Marcy, is that acceptable? Okay. Okay, our next item on our agenda is consent agenda, and we have 2 students for participation in government. So what the consent agenda is, it's so the board at this time doesn't have to read off all the logistical business items, like approving the last minutes. We have what's called consent agenda. So it's 1 vote, 1 item that we get to respond to many items, which that information could be found on our website for under the board documents. So do I have a motion from a board member for consent agenda? I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Mr. Kincaid, second, Mr. Givardo. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. 6-0. Thank you so much. Board President report. So last week, or 2 weeks ago, we had a executive meeting of the Monroe County School Boards Association that Superintendent Swan and I attended. And one of the things that we discussed is a pretty important organization that we are members of, and that's ACT for Education. And that, I forget the actual acronym, but it's a great group that helps promote education, promote what we do as a school district, what public school does for our community. So I'll be sending you, I didn't send it out immediately, but I will be sending everyone an outline, if you didn't already get it from Monroe County School Boards, of what they do and how we can support them and how they support us. But it's a great organization that actually the superintendent's organization is a lot more active with it than we as school board members are. So if you want to share a little more about what the organization does.
Well, I think you summarized it well. There are opportunities in which we come together as a superintendent group, and we may be discussing what each school district is doing in a particular area. And there are times where we want to have common language and common communication around something. And so ACT may help promote that and help that common understanding across the region. it's also an opportunity for districts to really highlight individually some of their bright spots and what is specific to their school district and their region. So they're great partners. And as Kevin said, it's really a mechanism to celebrate and to communicate all that's going on in our school districts and in our communities.
So I dropped off a couple of chocolates for everyone earlier. It wasn't for me. I'm gonna pass around a letter from Sherry Johnson, the executive director of the Monroe County School Boards Association. Also note that she shared with us, and she's got a lot of school districts to be writing a lot of notes for, so it's great to see a handwritten note come out in these days. I want to share that and her appreciation for what we do as a school board. And what I want to say is earlier for some of you were here earlier for board recognition. It's New York State School Boards Recognition Week this week. And what I always say about our district and our people is they don't make it so easy. They make us look so good. And we, I'm speaking on behalf of myself and the board, we really appreciate what everyone in this district does. Because even though, like Joe said, we put in a lot of time, but it's heartfelt time, and it makes us feel good. And we do, and Joe, I appreciate you mentioning that our decisions, we're always looking at what's best for the students, what's best for the district. And we do appreciate being recognized, and we appreciate what everyone does for the district, from cabinet, the faculty, the staff, everyone in the district makes our work easy. It makes it easy for us to shine and look good. So we appreciate that, and we understand the effort that everyone goes through, and we do appreciate it. Mr. Kincaid.
Yeah, I have a couple items. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for their kind words and generous donations this evening on our behalf. We really do appreciate that, and with some of the recognition that you gave us, it means a lot to us. It really does, and we really appreciate that, especially this week being Board Recognition Week. Secondly, I'd like to say, hey, just a quick shout out. Good luck to some of our fall teams that have sectional competitions right around the corner. If you're a fan of high school sports, Section 5 sports, check our website under athletics. There's a lot of sectional contests that are going to be hosted here at Spencerport. If you're a fan and you like live athletics, please attend some of our events. We have some pretty good teams that are entering sectionals the end of this week going into next week. So just a shout out and good luck to our Rangers. Go Rangers.
Thank you. Again, I express my thanks to everybody who showed their appreciation for Board Appreciation Week. That was very nice. I just have one thing. I attended the Monaco County School Board Association Legislative Affairs Committee. That's a committee where school board leaders from around the county can come together and talk about where they might have common issues that they want to work with their legislators on. And our district is very similar to all the districts out there. We identified several areas. One, the top one being funding. I'm told that's always the top one. Making sure that our new governor delivers on promised foundation aid, and the concerns that a lot of districts have over the fact that our federal stimulus money is very helpful, but it's a one-time situation. And then some of the pressing issues that school districts are still dealing with, the testing requirements for unvaccinated staff, the bus driver shortages, and looking at whether CDL requirements could possibly be revised a little bit to make it easier to attract and retain school bus drivers. And of course, the staffing shortages that districts around the county and around the state are facing right now. So we had some good discussion around several of those points and trying to think about how we can work with local lawmakers to move some of those issues forward.
So there's nothing new. Is football in sectionals or just the two soccer teams at this point? Do we know? Football. So there are sectionals too. Okay, so yeah. So good luck to all three coaches. And I want to thank the people who came and spoke today. And nothing else to report.
Thank you for not having anything else to say.
Nothing. I got nothing.
It's a busy month. I had the Monroe County School Board Association Information Exchange, which was the Bavona came and spoke to school board and community members, just like we had actually through Spencerport. I attended a nice Saturday training for school board on budget planning and financial. It was a long 8 hours on a Saturday, but I'm all caught up, guys, so just so you
Okay,
know.
well done.
I want to give a shout out to the Spencerport Teachers Association for inviting us to join them on the breast cancer walk on Sunday. It was rainy and cold in weather, but good in spirit. So we really appreciate you being out there and having us be with you. And October, just like this is Board Appreciation Week, but October is actually National Principals Month. And so I think, of course, I'm going to speak on behalf of the board, sorry. I think that one of the things that we certainly recognize is while this has been a challenging time for students and for staff and for administrators. And I think, you know, all of us, I think collectively, right, we have concern for our own children, for children in the district, for staff, and all the challenges they're facing. But I will say that as a board member, and I think I can speak for the board here, the one thing that we are not concerned about is the principal's commitment to the students and to this district and to each other. That is not concerning at all. We are very well aware that they are on the front lines. And I have a daughter who at times was worried about school safety. And I used to tell her that she didn't have to worry because I had never been in a building where staff didn't put themselves in between danger at all times. And I mean that in every way, in the physical sense and in the emotional sense. And I have been amazed at what I see our principals do here. That certainly is true for them. Always standing in front of and next to our kids. So thank you to them. We appreciate them as well.
It's all you, Jim. You're the only one here. Thank you. One of, I forgot to mention, and there were a few people, quite a few people that had signed on and watched the Bavona parent session that was earlier this week or last week. It is recorded. It is a great session. If parents and people are not familiar with what Bavona is and what our advocacy programs are that are being presented by Bavona, it's a great presentation to get more familiar with what they're doing. So that is on our website and available for you to view it. It's, I think it was 30 minutes or so. She did a really good job getting through everything. So if you have an opportunity, or if you haven't heard what that's all about, please take the time to go see that. Okay. Kate?
Nope, well said, everybody. I don't have anything. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. In the spirit of our conversation around professional learning, I just wanted to share some information in regards to a bright spot that I had and a superintendent's conference day that occurred a few days ago. I'd like to thank Ty and the instructional office for putting on a great day of professional learning, as well as our building administrators and our teacher leaders, all who facilitated a number of different workshops and professional learning. But there was one experience that really resonated with me, and that occurred in the morning. I had the opportunity to join the high school for a conversation on equitable grading practices. And we actually had an alumni came in and spoke to the staff about grading practices and the impact. And this particular alumni had shared that she started in Spencerport as a 9th grade student, and due to family circumstances found herself moving out of state, coming back to state. And the way in which grading depending on what school district she was in, what state she was in, the impact that it had on her, and that her grades at times did not represent her as a learner. And I've sat through many grading practice conversations in professional development. But when you can hear the impact from a student's perspective and an alumni's perspective, it really helped to anchor our conversation and what it really means to have equitable grading practices. And so I applaud the high school for engaging in those hard conversations. I know that their work will be continuing throughout the year, and very grateful for our alumni who came in and shared her story and allowed us to really anchor our mindset and our values in her story. And so it was a wonderful opportunity. Kevin, you also shared a little bit. I was going to also talk about the VONA, which was a very helpful presentation and professional learning at the end of the day. Amaris Hood was our facilitator. Children in some of the buildings know her as Miss Tippy, just a wonderful person, a very lively and spirited person who gave a wonderful reminder of the important signs to be looking for and how to keep our children safe. And so again, I encourage, if anybody in our community missed that presentation, it is on our website, and would encourage them to access it. Ty will be presenting next. We have a presentation on student achievement results and Essa accountability. And I just want to give a context for the presentation before Ty begins. And Ty and I have been working together and really thinking about all of the instructional initiatives that we're engaged in right now. And so much of our focus has been in getting school open, responding to all of the COVID measures, that we really wanted to reground ourselves in instructional practices. And so our presentation today is really almost taking a step back and anchoring both the board and the community in our Essa accountability data and certain designations that we have and talking about student achievement. And this will set the foundation for future presentations in the months to come that will really help connect all of the instructional initiatives that we're engaging in and bring it back to student learning and updates on progress and how we're measuring how we're doing with those initiatives moving forward. So I thank Ty for the presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Swan. Good evening. So like Ms. Swan just shared, this is really a precursor to the next board meeting on November 2nd, when Mr. Santola and some of his staff members will be presenting on the instructional practices that are occurring at Cosgrove. The impetus behind this work right now is just to give you some background on Essa, to once again re-anchor us into some of this work when it comes to the accountability status. If you were to take some time and read through the Essa legislation, you will find that it is not only aligned with our mission statement, but there's also elements within our core values as well. From there, I think it's also a healthy reminder that this work really started over 50 years ago with the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. That then evolved to No Child Left Behind with President Bush's administration. And then from there, back in 2015, under the President Obama's administration, we were able to evolve, and now we have what's known as the Essa Act. I think some of the important pieces with this act, some of the elements that they really focus on involves providing equity and access for all students, no matter your zip code. In addition, there's also accountability measures, and that's part of the presentation for us this evening. There's 3 different designations with the Essa Act. You're either in good standing, you could possibly be a CSI school, and it just happens that Cosgrove is a TSI school, so a targeted support and improvement school. And this is based on one of our subgroups through 6A testing. All this information can be found on New York State website, right there, data.nysed.gov. And this is really our school report card. So for example, realtors, any family that might be looking to move to the Spencerport neighborhood has access to this information, getting some good insight on the academic progress of all 6 of our buildings. This might influence, which neighborhood they want to live in, et cetera, but it really has a lot of information. If you're a data person, you could really go to town with this website and really learn a lot. This is also listed just in terms of our accountability status in Spencerport. And specifically knowing that we are a TSI school, what does this mean and how it impacts the work that we do? So give you a little history of how we arrived as a TSI school. It requires 2 years of not meeting certain performance indicators. So that first year, we were in good standing, but it was highlighted that we were a potential TSI school. The second year, because we didn't hit specific indicators, that's when we received our TSI designation. Now, as you're aware, with COVID back in 2020, the state suspended all 3 assessments along with Regents exams. So from there, we couldn't demonstrate growth. Then once again, last year, although those assessments were in place, I would say that consistently across the state, with those one-day assessments, they weren't embraced like they were in the past. So what does this mean? This slide right here is just a reminder. This was presented to the Board of Education 2 years ago, just in terms of how we arrived here. And you can just see what's highlighted here, the subgroup in yellow, with that designation of why we're a TSI school. And this is a combination of student performance and participation rate. And you can see on this column right here, these 2 columns, what it looks when you look at your ELA and math assessments for the 17-18 and 18-19 school years, the number of students that we administered the assessments to and those that we did not. And you can see for the total, when you look at this, we're at a 52% participation rate for ELA and a 47% participation rate for mathematics. This then influences the performance achievement level and also the student growth level. And districts receive an additional consequence when you do not meet that threshold of that 95% participation rate. So what happens is, those individuals do not have a score, and then that's factored in through this weighted process. And what does that mean? It really means that until these numbers go up in terms of your participation rate, it's difficult, virtually impossible, to get off that list of being a TSI school. So what does this mean? Well, once again, just the mathematics involved. You want to avoid the ones. And unfortunately, with participation rate, if students are not sitting for the assessments, it's difficult then for us to demonstrate the necessary progress. Let's keep in mind too that the students that this impacts from 3-4 years ago, obviously are students at the high school now, which has a different set of accountability measures, knowing that students are required to take Regents exams. Well, in a traditional year, they would be required to take a Regents exam. There's a moratorium the last 2 years, where it was optional for students. But moving forward, you need those 5 Regents exams in order to receive a Regents diploma, and about 8 Regents exams in order to be eligible for the advanced designation, which is something that is encouraged at the high school. So the next steps, we've discussed the participation rate improvement plan. We shared some information as early as today, just in terms of where this stands. In addition, we have developed and submitted a district comprehensive improvement plan that's been shared with the Board of Education in terms of some of our efforts and our priorities and commitments when it comes to making these changes. And this is something that Mr. Senthol and his team will be presenting in 2 weeks' time. They also are required to complete a comprehensive education plan for that building that address some of these factors as well. And that's what will be presented to the board on November 2nd. So this really was just to provide, once again, precursor to some of the work and some of the effort that the middle school is currently working on. Really impressed with the amount of interest in terms of not only balancing the academic needs of our students, but also, as you know, the social emotional needs of our students as well. And it's that fine balance in order to provide that support.
So Ty, there was a small subgroup that put the entire building in the TSI.
Correct.
Are there other subgroups that are teetering that we need to focus on, or is it still the same subgroup that's problematic?
It's still the same subgroup, and in fact, that subgroup is not good standing right now, but something that we're watching at another school as well, at one of our elementary buildings.
So again, just to emphasize, that data is many years old. So although the designation is at the middle school as Ty shared, that actual cohort of students is now well within the senior high. But many times I'm asked, well, how do we know how our students are doing? And so there's many ways. This is one data point, but we'll be showing you over the weeks to come many ways in which we are assessing how our students are doing, what that looks, both in a quantitative measure as well as a qualitative. And the more important, the action steps that we're putting in place to address learning needs at schools, social emotional needs. So those, we just wanted to set the stage and to really summarize and recognize that although these designations are in place right now, they are from data points many years ago, but because of COVID, we haven't had the opportunity to share or to show growth that would allow us off that list. But most importantly, in the months to come, we'll be sharing with you all that we're doing to improve student achievement.
So Ms. Swan, we can assume that they're gonna have 3 this year, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, we have not heard from the state that the test will be changed or modified in any way right now. We are assuming testing
Yeah.
in a traditional sense.
I think the only caveat to that, as we transition to next generation learning standards, so this will be next year, that will be, students will be assessed under those new standards during the 22-23 school year.
So that's interesting. We're already using old data and we're going to use a new test.
Will be a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, there are a lot of moving parts to that. When we talk about the participation rate improvement plan, I don't think that's anything that our own district has ever had to deal with. Do we have a sense what other districts have done or how long it kind of takes to get buy-in as you try to get the participation rate to improve?
If I'm understanding your question, what have other school districts done that have helped them move?
Or how long was the process? I feel like it won't be something where we simply ask, would you please participate in the test, and families suddenly say, sure. I feel like that could take several time.
Yeah, I do think it takes time. I also think that it takes the commitment of the district to recognize that that's just one type of assessment measure. And so Ty and I and administrators and teacher leaders have been talking about assessments and the many forms of assessment that there is and how we get a more accurate sense of what our students know and are able to do. And we're going to share that and roll that out. But, you know, I think that we're seeing the impact of low participation, given how assessments were tied to, you know, performance and evaluations, and that's not really the best practice or the sound way to assess children, and we know that. So it does take a little bit of time to develop a more robust local assessment system where you have a lot of faith in how we're measuring on a day-to-day basis. And then quite honestly, there's less fear around the state assessments. And Laura, you just said it beautifully. Right now, it's very difficult to even know what you're measuring with the state assessments, different standards, no assessments, sometimes there's assessments. So there are a lot of moving parts, and we're going to have to recalibrate, and we're going to have to anchor in how we're measuring our students with local assessments.
Thank you. I just have one further question on that. So is there an opportunity to use, is the only data point used in terms of this TSI designation, the state assessment? Or is there an opportunity, is there to use, provide other data?
We
Just the
cannot,
non-test.
yeah, so with Essa, we cannot provide our local assessment data, and there are complicated growth formulas. And as Ty was sharing, part of the growth formula is impacted if you don't have a certain percentage rate. So we just, again, have to balance that is one measure, and that we can create many measures to really have a holistic view of how our students are doing.
I think to just unpredictability of this, knowing that College Grove has been designated as a TSI school, and then the high school is designated as a recognition school, which is a good thing to be on. Optically, it doesn't really make a lot of sense.
I just wanted to say, but so next year, I mean, to go from a 47% participation rate to a 95% participation rate is a large haul. So
Yeah.
we'd like you, I'm glad that we're looking at some other things. So we have a representation of what students are actually able,
To do.
how they're performing, you know, and we're not, I understand that the designation will be there, and that's something we have to look at, but that we don't just get stuck there and not taking into account other measures.
I think when you look at school improvement or student improvement, metrics of 5 to 8%, 5 to 10% improvement from one year to the next. I think that's something that, we will strive for. And I think we could, include that with our participation rate improvement plan as well.
Before we go much further, I want to remind everyone of our conversation last week at our last meeting about our guests, and please enunciate and speak up so our guests can hear us. We are working on a sound system, so someday we'll have it. So guys in the back will actually be able to hear everything we're saying. So we just got to remind ourselves that to speak up if you could. Thank you.
So I'm going to ask Rick now to walk us through the budget assumption and calendar and guidelines.
Thank you, Kristen. So last board meeting, you got an opportunity to close out the 2021 year. And tonight you get to get a glimpse of the 22-23 year. I think we just skipped right over here. So as we've done over the past 12 years, we're bringing forth what we're recommending as assumptions to develop what we call the base budget, to give a big picture view of what type of challenges we may be facing. I just want to highlight some of the changes from the prior year. On the revenue side, normally what we've done is just a 2% because of the perception that the tax cap is 2%. Using forecast 5 and working with our financial advisors, I'd like to try to be a little bit more specific with what that tax levy calculation may be. And then as far as the state aid, normally what we've done is just 1% on the foundation aid. We know that right now, tentatively, until I actually see the state aid run, it's supposed to be increased. So we'll include that, but we'll also take a look a little bit at some of the output reports to try to take a closer look at where we think we're going to be on some of those other aid issues. Normally we've kept those flat other than foundation aid. So try to take a closer look there. On the expense side, recognize that salaries are per contract. I just want to remind you that we have one bargaining unit whose contract ended in 2020. We have 2 that ended in 2021. So those 3 are still unsettled. And we have 3 contracts coming up at the end of this year. So that is probably going to be a little bit more difficult to forecast than it has been in years past. Another area, probably often wonder is 3.75% for BOCES services. Is that appropriate? The 4-year average that our BOCES cost increase was 4.8%, and the 5-year average was 4.5%. So this is actually a little on the low side, but I still feel comfortable with using 3.75. And then again, principal and interest, our debt service, we use that schedule, so those are the actual numbers. Anything on the assumptions? On the key dates, I just want to share with you or point out some. We have in December, the board meeting, that will be a presentation for our rollover budget. April 12th is when the board will approve or adopt the proposed 22-23 budget. And then May 17th is the budget vote itself. I also want to bring to your attention, we have two board members whose terms will be ending. That's Mr. Bracken and Mr. Kincaid. And lastly, the budget focus group dates, which we'll talk about next, but those are, we're planning for 6 sessions, and those are opposite board meeting nights on Tuesdays. Any questions I may have on budget assumptions, calendar, or guidelines?
So Rick, I don't know if this is the right time, but I guess it's a part of the assumptions. That the court settlement that had just occurred that with foundation aid for for districts, it was about low income districts or not as well funded districts. When will we know if we're getting any of that? And do we know anything about distribution of when it will happen, how long it'll be, or anything about that?
Based on last year's legislation, it's supposed to be covered over the next 2 years. I've not seen or read anything that has been resolved recently with Governor Poco said. But for Spencerport, that was about $4 million that we have been underfunded. If they do what they said in the last, that would be essentially $2 million in 22-23 and 23-24. When will we know? When the executive branch approves the budget. So.
That's again,
It's
maybe April 1st or.
yes. Yeah. And again, until I see it, we will most likely probably use that number. But you know, if they don't come through with that, that changes the picture dramatically. Dave?
This might be far ahead, but what are we doing with the election? Is it going to be mail-ins again, send those out all one site here or multiple sites? Have you thought, are we there yet or no?
The voting for the
Yeah, for the budget.
just district office.
Just district office, no more, we're doing mail orders, not mail orders, but absentee ballots again? Like when year we do like.
Again, whatever the legislature comes out with.
They have decided, okay, so one place here, and then deciding on absentee ballots.
Yep.
Okay.
Does not require a vote.
No, it does not.
Yeah,
Budget
let's
focus
do
group,
that.
Church. We'll just
Let's
keep
move
rolling.
into the budget focus group.
Okay, thanks again. So again, just bringing to your attention what the charge is of the budget focus group. Share with you tentatively the dates and the topics that we hope to cover each time. If you flip it over on the back, it just shares with you sort of a maximum composition. I think, again, over the last couple of years, the participation has been dwindling as much as we try to advertise for it. Hopefully we can get a few more association members well represented with STA. So thank you, Joe, for reaching out and having them participate. But I think we'd like to see some other association and as well as community membership.
So I was going to propose, and I was hoping some of our principals, or more of the principals were here today. I think that what makes the budget focus group of value is a lot of the questions. Over the last several years, we've had the same community members coming for the budget focus group. And it's been less and less questions, less and less information that comes out. I think a little bit of a combination of hey, I've been here, I've asked this question, I know what's coming up here and I've got resolution. And it may be that the new people are less apt to ask those questions because, hey, everyone else in the room knows. So I really wanted to challenge our principals to really get more parents to come to this. So for the elementary schools, I hope it's not that hard to reach to get two parents or two community members from that building that would be able to come in and make that commitment of 6 meetings. So I guess, Kristen, I'm putting it to you that we really want to get this.
Yeah.
That really makes it of value. And what we want to do is for the others, for our organizations, is to not have the same people. Not that I don't want to have the same group, but let's get some more participation. Let's get some more understanding of each one of these groups to get a bigger representation. So Gary, I know you've been on it for a long time and I really appreciate it. But it gets to a point where, okay, we understand it. We want to get more people to understand and get this. So Gary, if there's someone else from the town council that can come, not that I don't want you, or the village, I'm sorry. Not that we don't want you, but we want to have more people.
Well, you know, there is a little conflict I got now too. The fire advisory board meets, and I'm also a member of that, so I think I'm gonna have a little conflict anyway, coming up this year with this session. I know I did last year. I kind of got appointed to this fire advisory board. I wasn't really asking for it, but sometimes those things happen. So
Okay,
I am kind of looking for somebody to take over.
awesome. We
Well,
appreciate it.
Carol, but you're already coming. Carol's been coming.
Okay.
So we'll try to see if we can close.
So the concept of our budget focus group is to get community understanding of what our process is and what these numbers add up to, for the goal of getting more community buy-in. So understanding what it's about, I think, is the first step of getting a good budget that everyone can get on board with. So that's our real goal. So when we're looking at I know that the folks in the audience don't get to see this, but a maximum of 8 people for elementary schools, 4 for middle school, 4 for high school, 2 high school students, senior representatives, civic organizations, business and government leaders. We want to have those people in the room to understand where we're coming from with this budget. So we're not doing it in the shadows. We want everyone to see where we're coming up with these budgets. So we appreciate anyone here that can drum up some support and get more community members on board. Sorry, Rick, back to you.
I'm done.
And you're done.
That's that.
Rick, you know, as a longstanding member of the budget focus group, I do appreciate that every year you change up the delivery of your message. And also I appreciate how you do open the floor frequently to community members to get their input. And for any of you that are community members, this is a great opportunity to learn about the budget. And we do want your input. You know, we want ideas from the community, and I appreciate what you do and what your planning committee does for these meetings to get input, whether it's through a survey during the meetings or if it's even through discussion. So community members that are maybe listening in tonight, people that are sitting in the audience, that's how I got started. Have an interest in the school district, even though my kids are graduated from the district. I was part of the budget focus group, and that just it was such a great experience. It really it's a very interesting concept, and there's so much that you can learn and gain from that. And also the transparency of what we do from a financial point of view in our district. It's a great way for all of us as taxpayers to have a clear understanding of what the school is doing when we come to managing our finances. So I would really encourage anybody out there who's either listening or sitting out there tonight, please get involved Okay, we love when people get involved in our school committees. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
So this was a presentation of the budget focus group charge. It doesn't require a vote, but everyone's had a chance to read it. Are we in agreement? Should there be more? Should there be less? Or I don't think I've seen anything come back about this. So Rick, it's yours. Run. Run with it, not away from it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Rick, the financial report?
So one more here. Not really a lot to report. It's still early in the year. I will share on the revenue side, although they're very small amounts, you are seeing some community education things come in and some athletic receipts, whereas last year we didn't have any at this point in time. On the expense side, so you're seeing some revenues come in, you're also seeing expenses on those two areas as well. I will share it's very difficult. It's not difficult, but it's when you're comparing this year to last year and the 2 years are so different. There's a lot of differences, variances between the two, but what it does is it allows me an opportunity to go back and look a little bit more closely at what's happening. So that's actually a positive, in my opinion. Again, on the expense side, BOCES expense is playing a little bit of a role. And lastly, on the benefit side, you probably saw a rather smaller amount compared to last year. And that's just due to an accounting change. We're looking to try to encumber the full amount of the ERS and TRS pension contribution. That's new for us this year. We're working with BOCES 1 to implement that. We were afraid if we recorded it, then once we actually implement it, it would actually be in there twice. So hopefully we should see some resolve come the next financial report. And there's no fund balance only because we plan to get everything I projected and spend everything I projected. So, any questions on the general fund side? No. School lunch side, again, very difficult. You're not really comparing apples to apples, no pun intended. Not one laugh, not one.
Should be chocolate colored strawberries, chocolate strawberries.
Yeah, but yeah, that's right, go have one. So again, I think the biggest variance in this was when you look at the revenue. And again, that was more of an accounting correction. Hopefully come the next board meeting, the next financial report, we'll see some revenue come in from the federal and state. My sense is that will be a little bit higher because my understanding in talking to Gary and to Jonathan is that our participation is up dramatically. So that's very encouraging. So with that, I'll open up any questions on school lunch or if you thought of some for the general fund.
Motion to accept the financial report.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the financial report.
Seconded, Leah. All in favor? Katie, you still with us?
Yeah, I had to re-log in, so I can't get my video again.
Bye, Rose.
Here I am. Hi.
You're not in your car anymore. That's good.
Yep.
So was that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. Meeting evaluation. Did we do a little better back there? Making it clear so you can hear? So we got some yes, we got some no's. Okay.
I can hear pretty.
So we're working on the sound system to make it so you'll get a little more out of this. So I apologize and we're going to be working on that. I'm getting that improved. So next item is a motion to.
I'd like to make a motion that we enter executive session. There's a few issues tonight to discuss, so my motion is to enter executive session for the purpose of discussing collective negotiations, the employment history of a particular person, and a matter of school safety.
Second. Mrs. Bardo, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. For the executive session.